the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And Kathy informed me that Kurt thought he was going to be here, but he is stuck in Anchorage, so he was not able to make today's meeting. Am I on? Okay. I need approval of the minutes from the last meeting. Do we
So
have
moved.
a motion?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the meeting minutes from April 7th. All those in favor?
Aye.
Signify by
Aye.
saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That carries. We move on to the approval of the meeting agenda and any amendments. Are there any amendments to the meeting agenda? Hearing none, do we have an approval for the agenda?
So move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? We move on to public hearings and bid awards. The first item is 14-126, public hearing on ordinance 2014-06, an ordinance providing for chapter 4.50, which is the E911 Emergency Communications Fund, and updating current language to reflect borough incorporation. Is there any public comment on ordinance 2014-06? Hearing none, we'll move on to item B, which is public hearing on ordinance 2014-07, an ordinance adjusting the FY 2014 budget. The ordinance has been amended since its introduction to include an increase in revenues of $180,281 from National Forest Seat Receipt Program, a transfer of $20,000 from the wastewater fund to the pump station number 5 project to finish out the project, and an increase of $26,042 to the motor pool fund for the down payment on a new grader. Is there anyone who wishes to comment on ordinance 2014-07? Hearing none, we will move on to item C, which is the crushed rock bid award. Public Works is recommending the award to Reed Brothers Construction for an amount not to exceed $31,500. Any comments? Moving on to item D. Oh, do we need action? Okay. So I need a motion on that bid award.
So move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we award Reed Brothers Construction a contract for an amount not to exceed $31,500. Can the clerk call the roll?
Yes.
Cindy,
Yes.
Jay,
Yes.
Nancy,
Yes.
and John.
Yes.
And I apologize, I should have offered that for discussion, but nobody raised any issues. The next item is bid award for the fish cleaning float. 3 bids were received for the project. PMD Engineers and Harbor Master Wallen recommend that the low bidder Tamaco be awarded the contract in the bid amount of $166,000. Is there a motion?
Yes, I'd move. So move. Sorry.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion regarding this bid award? Hearing none, will the clerk call the roll?
Jay,
Yes. Yes.
Cindy,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
and Nancy.
Yes.
Motion passes. Next item up is visitors' views related to the agenda. Are there any visitors that wish to speak to the agenda? Go ahead, Dave. And please make sure you state your name.
Thank you. My name is David Beebe. I'm representing the city of Kupreanof. And the city of Kupreanof was one of 10 commenters on the University of Alaska South Minkoff timber sale. And there were concerns registered by other people that had to do with its proximity to the Banana Point boat launch and the Ernie Haugen recreation area. I've distributed maps that were made by the Landslide Science and Technical Committee This was a committee that was convened in 2008, I believe. The map was actually produced by 2011. And this map was part of a process by which the Midcoff Highway homeowners, who were also concerned about state logging activities on unstable slopes above public infrastructure, attempted to make amendments via the House Bill 91, which would amend the Forest Resources Practices Act of the state, which has no concerns in regards to the constitutional issues of public safety. So this map was sort of a way to document the hazards within a half mile of public roadways. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with the boundaries of the South Midcoff Highway sale, but it's essentially that portion of the map that is right off of Rinda Island. There you'll see two small islands just off of Banana Point, if you're
Right
familiar with
down
that shoreline. Is everybody clear on where we are here now? Essentially, the whole state holding is within a half mile, is documented as unstable slopes within a half mile of public roadways. If you ever travel out there, you'll notice that without the current logging plans, there are already rock slides coming down onto the road. Dr. Douglas Swanston made practically some of his most seminal work in landslide science. He's a world-renowned landslide geologist. He basically did a great deal of his research on Midcoff Island, principally because of its history of unstable slopes. To give a brief review of this, unstable slopes are 5 times more likely to end up with landslides, what is referred to as debris torrents and rockfall. And there's also another issue here, and it has to do with helicopter logging of unstable slopes. There is published science coming out of British Columbia which compared the difference between clear-cut logging, excluding the road prisms that are involved in landslides, to helicopter logging, and found virtually no statistical difference. So there have been prior claims in the past that helicopter logging would reduce the incidence of landslides, but that's actually not the case according to this study. So the city of Kupreanof would like to see the Borough Assembly also register concerns in this regards, especially as it relates to the fact that their concerns have already been stated in regards to both landslides and deer habitat issues, which these sales do definitely call into question the prudence of. We should also hope that the borough might find it worthwhile to, if nothing else, register a letter that would ask the Board of Regents, who are responsible for this. They actually have in their policy a clause which says that the acceptance of offers may also be subject to additional public noticing, including but not limited to public notice to the successful offerer's development plans. And this basically being that we now know that there is a successful bidder for the South Midcoff Island timber sale, and that although there is not notice of a detailed plan of operations, that will get submitted to DNR, and from there the process will be for a review of the DPO's detailed plan of operations, consistency with the Forest Resources Practices Act. But as you can see, without amendments to this act, we're relying on a rather weak set of standards and guidelines that are being implemented in lieu of these, what I would consider to be very prudent amendments to FERPA, the Forest Resources Practices Act. I'd also like to ask that this issue be put on the agenda, because I'm not even sure on the agenda for May 19th, because I'm not even sure if the city of, or I should say the Borough of Petersburg has had an opportunity to acquaint itself with the details of these issues, but unfortunately they go beyond the South Midcoff Island timber sale and extend to a whole host of near-term being basically within the next 5 years of some pretty serious intensive impacts on already hammered landscape. So is there any questions on this so far? Is everybody following me? Okay, well, thank you for this opportunity.
One was that you think that the operator should have to, the successful operator should have to have public plans before they begin operation. Is that one I heard?
Thank you. I would like to clarify that. This letter might ask that an independent review of the landslide risks be in the approved detailed plan of operation be accomplished prior to the sale going forward, and also to register concerns with deer habitat.
Okay. The second issue had to do with taking a position to change the forestry practice, the State Forestry Practices Act, related to land slope stabilization.
No, this would be action taken because those amendments that deal with landslide hazards weren't included in the Forest Resources Practices Act. So this is in recognition of the fact that FERPA has not been amended specifically to account for public safety. And instead, they are attempting to upgrade standards and guidelines which are not commensurate with the public risk.
Okay. And the third point was is that you think that the borough should take a position related to future actions on timber sales that may come up. Is that your?
We would like to see that the borough actually be following these timber sales and the scope and intensity of them in the near future, and perhaps even have a process by which the borough could actually review what's going on here, because like I said, there is a public safety issue here, and at a minimum, and certainly a review of the consequences to the Game Management Unit 3's ability to provide for subsistence deer. So these are the two big issues that seem to be appropriate for what's going on here.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other visitors' views related to the agenda?
Yeah, my name is Becky Knight. I just wanted to back up a little bit of what Dave said. The bigger picture, this particular timber sale will remove up to 17.5 million board feet of timber, and that's in addition to federal, non-federal, and this private timber sale, university being private. 100 million board feet removed from our immediate area in the next 2 to 5 years. That includes Tom's Bay, what's going on Tonka right now, and Metcalf Island. So those are pretty drastic impacts in such a short time. And this is in addition to it's kind of a perfect storm of several issues, one of which is low deer abundance, which is hard to believe when they're after your tulips in town, but that's in town as an artificial environment. We have the lowest hunter success in 30, probably ever years. 22 deer were harvested in 2012, 565 hunter days, 141 hunters to get 22 deer. And those have serious subsistence implications. In addition to that, the Alexander Archipelago wolf may be listed under the Endangered Species Act, and wolves are dependent on deer, hunters are dependent on deer, and it gets to be a very complicated situation. On top of that, the state was mandated were triggered by certain numbers to institute intensive management for wolves in an attempt to bring back the deer numbers. So as you can see, it's a really complicated situation. So the deer wolf hunter issue is a huge issue when you're talking about taking basically 100 million board feet of old growth, for the most part, old growth timber off of our immediate area. In addition to that, getting back to just the university sale, it's on 1,066 acres. 368 acres are on Wrangell Narrows, kind of at a pinch point 14 miles south. We'll be in full view, only 100 foot buffer, and it's in prime deer winter range. And probably, as everybody here knows, the Wrangell Narrows is a scenic byway, and it's called the All-American Road, and I'm just going to quote you here. It's a higher designation of 2 designations, indicates that the route has not only regional but national significance and is a destination unto itself. And it's the philosophy of the Alaska National Scenic Byway Program that byways should be developed and managed to serve the communities through which they pass. While byways must recognize and address the needs of the traveler, development strategies should be a product of local communities, of people who live near the byway and those who may interact or benefit from travelers. And I don't think there's been any recognition, well, I know there's been no recognition of that scenic byway. The other important point is the university touted that they would have community forums, include the communities. It's right on their website, all over the website. And there's been no attempt at that whatsoever. And granted, the comment period ended March 19th, but with this new information regarding landslide risk, culmination of all these deer wolf issues, I think it's really important to ask for more information and analysis of these slopes and the deer issue. And then a couple of other things here. So what some people have asked for is that the Board of Regents for the university, they have the ability to cancel the sale or at least slow it down and get more information. And I guess I'll read you that right here. Acceptance of offers, that's from the timber operator, may be subject to Board of Regents approval pursuant to Board of Regents policy, and may also be subject to additional public noticing, including but not limited to public notice specific to the successful offerer's proposed development plans. The proposed development plan is at the Board of Forestry or Department of Forestry right now, not the department, Division of Forestry right now. Anyway, so hopefully you can address this at your next council meeting. It's urgent. Thank you.
Are there any visitors' views related to the agenda? Hearing none, are there any other visitors' views that are unrelated to the agenda?
My name is Jim Whitethorn. I've been resident in Petersburg for almost 40 years now. I'm here to speak in behalf of our Planning and Zoning Commission. I spent 8 years on the commission, chaired it for 4 years, and it kind of got under my goat when I found out that there was a unanimous decision, a 7-0, and it came to this committee and was vetoed. I never once in 4 years had a unanimous decision in our committee that did not pass council's recommendation, almost always unanimously. So my feeling is that the reason we elect these people is that they are the ones that have to do all the legwork and all the very important stuff to make these decisions. So they're the so-called experts from a voter's viewpoint, and it also takes a lot of the headaches away from people like you guys that are on this committee. So my recommendation is that if you're not going to go with a unanimous decision, there should be a really good reason for that, not just nitpicky type stuff or personality type stuff or anything like that. It should be something pretty solid, because these people on P&Z, which are, again, I say elected, do a lot of work on this stuff. And I know because I was on there for 8 years, and we go to the sites and visit with the people and have many hearings and on every item that's controversial. Try to get all those headaches ironed out before it gets to your committee. And otherwise, what I would suggest, if you people are going to take it upon yourself to veto decisions like that maybe you eliminate that board or do it voluntarily. But I wouldn't go through as far as trying to elect someone that, you know, really should have a lot of say. They actually should have more say than you people, because that's why they're there, for one specific reason, for planning and zoning issues. So I just want to stand up for them. I don't want to get into the issues of why, who, when, or where. I never really studied up on it that much, but it did really bother me when I seen that this thing was upturned by this committee. So thank you.
Are there any other visitors' views unrelated to the agenda?
My name is Mallory Sloan, resident of Petersburg for 10 years now. I just want to voice my opposition to the proposal of becoming a high-impact drug trafficking area. I'm not, of course, for drug trafficking, but I think over the last few years we've spent considerable effort to brand ourselves in a positive way. You know, we went through had the people come in from back east to make a brand. We went through becoming named one of the top yachting ports in the United States. Those are all positive things. I think this would be really negative. I think that there's relatively few arrests made for the size of our community. I went online and I looked up this program as part of the DEA, and the map I saw showed that there are none such areas in Alaska. So do we want to name ourselves as having the worst drug problem in the state of Alaska? I just think I think we should do things about drug trafficking. I just don't know that we want to make it so public. I don't know exactly what the word is. That's all I want to say. Thanks.
Were there any questions? Moving on to board, commission, and committee reports. There were none filed. Does anybody have anything that they wished to report? Then we have one item on our consent agenda, and that is the acknowledgement of the receipt of the Borough Assessor's certification of the 2014 real property tax roll. The assessor has certified the 2014 property tax roll to be $320,638,124. This includes tax exemptions totaling $33,506,386. Do I hear a motion to approve?
So move.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, will the clerk call the roll?
Cindy,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Nancy,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
and Jay.
Yes.
Motion carries. The next item on the agenda is report of other officers, and we have one item, the motor pool report, the FY14 supplemental, and the FY15 proposed budget considerations. And Director Hagerman will provide information regarding motor pool recommendations for amendments to the fiscal year 14 and 15 budgets. Take it away, Carl.
Thank you, Mayor and Assembly members. I thought it would be best just to give you a report because the items on the report show up in several places in the agenda today, and just to get the information out there one time would hopefully be beneficial. There's been a few things that have come up in relation to the budgets both this year and next year in relation to the motor pool. I have sent out emails, and hopefully most of you are in the know on what's going on with this, but just to reiterate and so the public knows, the first item would be a motor grader purchase, and this is completely dependent on the continued support of the Assembly for this purchase in FY15. But upon receiving support of this purchase in the budget work sessions, there is a very good opportunity for the borough to save money by buying a new and unused unit that's already been built. It's a 2012 motor grader that is currently in Montana. It was built for a community but was never purchased. So we are saving, if we were to buy this under the State of Alaska's Cooperative Purchasing Agreement, we would save a percentage, about 3.5% over the purchase price of a new unit, and it would also save us a dramatic amount of time till the unit could be supplied, delivered to the community. This comes into play for primarily the reason that we're considering this purchase, the motor pool is considering this, is that the Petersburg Indian Association has been renting a motor grader for the last 2 or 3 summers, doing work on Forest roads to benefit the community, and they have spent between $20,000 and $30,000 a year on rental fees, and they came to me and wanted to inquire about when we might be selling our motor grader, and they would be interested in purchasing it for fair market value, which is another thing that's pretty rare for us in heavy equipment sales in Petersburg. So we're considering it to put up for auction and essentially sell to the Petersburg Indian Association. If the unit is delivered much sooner, then they could actually forego rental fees this summer and simply purchase the unit, which would help them out dramatically, save them about $20,000 this summer. So, in essence, this purchase comes down to 2 items on the agenda. The first one being in the FY14 supplemental budget. In order to hold this unit until the July 1 rolls around and the FY15 budget is approved, Manager Giesbrecht did approve a down payment of $26,042 on that unit, which has been made. That is included in the FY14 supplemental ordinance that is in front of the Assembly today. Another option that I have mentioned in my report is the opportunity to simply amend the FY14 budget and the supplemental reading for the entire purchase price of $262,000. The money is available in the motor pool replacement fund either this year or next year, as long as we have the process taking place in public meetings. That is an option. That would actually even speed up the delivery even that much more to get that unit to Petersburg and benefit the borough and the PIA through the sale of our old unit. For right now, the down payment is the only thing being considered in the supplemental budget. In the FY15 budget, because of this opportunity to buy the grader, we know exactly how much it will cost the borough. Therefore, we're able to reduce the budget in the motor pool from what was a $310,000 line item to $236,000 for next year's to complete the purchase if it were to happen in FY15. And of course, if the unit is purchased completely in FY14, then that line item will go away and be zeroed out. That's in essence the motor grader purchase. Any questions on that at this time?
Carl, I had a couple. One, you said this unit's available in Montana at this time. Is it cheaper to get it from Montana to here, rather than order a new one? And I don't know where they come out of. For the shipping.
I believe they're built in the Midwest, so it's probably not much of a difference in shipping. It's the fact that it's a earlier model. The state contract has price escalations in it every year, so a brand new one would cost more as far as the retail price or the contract price, and then we'd probably still have the same amount of shipping to get it here.
Okay, so it wouldn't be an increase in shipping that would wipe out the benefit of buying at a lesser price? Then?
No.
Okay. That's all I have.
I got a question, Carl, for you and Jody. If we were to approve the full purchase of that this year, then your intent would be, as I read in there, to take the money that we had allocated for 15 and put it into the motor pool then fund? Is that your thinking?
Yeah, essentially we would just not budget for any expense for a motor grader in FY15. So that the motor pool budget would, from where it stands right now, without any changes being made to it, would go down by $310,000.
I'd like to move to amend the motor pool budget this year to cover the full price of the purchase of the motor, the grader.
Second. Yeah. We're all agreed.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any more discussion? Hearing none, will the clerk call a roll?
Nancy,
Yes.
Cindy,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Jay,
Yes.
and John.
Yes.
The motion passes to amend the budget for FY14 and 15.
And I have one other item. The purchase of a partially grant-funded Mountain View Manor van has also opened up an opportunity to take the van that the Mountain View Manor uses right now and upgrade Parks and Recreation. The van that they're using was purchased as a used unit, and it has served the department well, but it's getting tired. And Donnie and I had started planning on when to replace that. This opportunity is too good to pass up. We would really like to transfer the old Mountain View Manor van to Parks and Recreation and sell the Parks and Recreation van when the Mountain View Manor van is actually purchased and delivered to Petersburg. This scenario is all within the authority of the motor pool to undertake because of the replacement fund being a one account. All the different departments are accounted for in that fund strictly by motor pool, and the finance department really just looks at one number as far as that fund. So it's basically an internal process to transfer a vehicle and take funds from Parks and Rec replacement and transfer them to the Mountain View Manor replacement. It's all an internal thing. It really isn't anything to show in Jody's books. However, the planning that Donnie and I were doing to replace the van would have a balance of $10,000 available for the purchase of a new van. Well, we're only going to transfer about $8,000 to Mountain View Manor for the van. That's a fair market value, and so that leaves a couple $1,000 available, quote unquote available, as well as the money received from the sale of the old Parks and Rec van. Donnie would really like to address a need that his department has by buying a kayak and canoe trailer to support some outdoor programs that he has. And I'll let him add to that if he'd like. But essentially, we're looking at increasing the FY15 budget in the motor pool by $4,000 to allow the purchase of this trailer. And that will be, actually, has been included in the FY15 budget that Jody has supplied in the packet. Any questions on that?
So you're transferring the money from FY15 to FY14, is that what you said?
No, this is basically what the Assembly's approval would be for a $4,000 expense from the motor pool for a trailer. Just trying to add in all the details on how we ended up getting there. So,
But that's for 2015.
yes, FY15.
So we would be adding $4,000 more to the 15 budget, is that?
Right.
Yes, and I actually did include it in the ordinance that's presented today, and I wrote about it in the memo that was attached.
So essentially, the action you just took will eliminate $310,000 from the FY15 budget, the motor pool budget, and this action would add another $4,000 back into that budget.
Okay. And Donnie, we had a conversation this morning. I think you had a little bit more information to offer on that.
Yeah, I mean, Carl pretty much summed it up pretty straightforward. Although we are adding $4,000 to the FY15 budget, that $4,000 is coming from, number one, $2,000 that's left over from money that Parks and Recreation has put aside over the last 2 years to purchase a new van. A couple of years ago, Carl and I came to the conclusion that the Parks and Recreation van needed to be replaced. It hadn't been funded through the motor pool because the previous director had planned on just finding money for it or a grant or something for it to be able to replace it in the future. But we saw it as a need, so we began this current fiscal year, we put $5,000 in the motor pool for it. Next fiscal year, we were putting $5,000 into it, and then we were planning on a third year of putting $5,000 into it to have a total of $15,000 to be able to put towards a new Parks and Rec van. But to be able to purchase the Mountain View Manor van at $8,000 gives me a surplus of $2,000. And then with the sale of our old Parks and Recreation van would, we hope, probably get us at least $2,000 with the sale of that, which would then cover the cost of the $4,000 that the trailer would come to. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. So we vote on that later in the agenda, correct?
Yes.
Moving on to the mayor's report. We received a response from SEPA to our request to lower the wholesale power rate. The SEPA board has declined to take action on the request, citing fiscal need to retain funds to assure accomplishment of upcoming and ongoing capital projects. We also received 2 resignations from the school board. Don Brooks and John Bringhurst have resigned their positions from the school board. Both are moving out of the area. And the Assembly appreciates their service to our community and wishes them well in their relocations. And the final item is Assembly representation on the Comprehensive Plan RFP Review Board. Anticipating the Assembly will approve the issuance of the request for proposals for the Comprehensive Plan update later in the meeting, 2 members of the Assembly are needed to be a part of the RFP Review Board. The Review Board will consist of 2 Assembly members and Borough Manager Giesbrecht, 2 Planning Commission members to be selected by the Commission, and Community Development Director Lusac, Economic Development Representatives Liz Cabrera and Joyce Cummings, Harbor Representative Mike Bangs and Harbor Master Wallen, and a Chamber of Commerce representative. And I think we'll wait until we get to the RFP before we make that appointment. And there is no manager's report unless you have something, Carl? All right.
No.
Moving on to unfinished business, we have ordinances for second reading. Ordinance 1406, an ordinance providing for Chapter 4.50, the E911 Emergency Communications Fund of the Municipal Code, and updating current language to reflect borough incorporation. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we adopt ordinance 2014-06. Is there any discussion?
I reread that again. I've got a question for you on that. Under collections and remittance as part of that, when they certify or send the money to the borough, we're saying they have to do that under oath? That's the way I read it.
Yes.
It seems to me we have a double standard, because if they have to send that money under oath, then why, when the other businesses in town send their remittance, why is that not under oath? Or do we have a double set of standards here, is my question.
You know, I'm not sure.
Not sure.
All E91, are you talking about sales tax then?
Yeah, you know, the remittance of this from the telephone company or from the companies, okay.
Yes.
We're asking them, when they send that to us, it has to be under oath.
Yes.
So you would have to have it, you know, notarized under oath, as I see it. Whereas you take the taxes that are collected, you know, from a business in town, they
Right.
don't do it under oath, so we have a double standard.
Perhaps that is, the E911 language is standard, you know, maybe did you get that from
Yeah, this,
a different?
the E911 ordinance here mirrors state law and standards developed across the state by other communities. We can certainly take it out. I wasn't aware that sales tax remittance and other tax remittance wasn't done under a sworn type statement. But we can certainly amend that if you'd like.
Or maybe we should look at the sales tax code.
I'm sorry, doesn't the sales tax form they file have on there that now you've verified this is accurate?
It does, but I don't know if I would have to get a copy to see if it says under oath on it. I assumed that you looked at it, Bob.
Yeah, that's my only question, is I think we have two standards here, and I think that whatever we do, it needs to be the same.
So you looked at the sales tax code and it didn't have it in there?
It didn't have it in there that I saw.
Okay.
When they remit the E911 funds, they have to do that on a form that we provide. And I've never seen any other communities have that form notarized. It's more of a certification than a notarized type document. So I'm not sure we need to change it, but it's certainly something we can look at if you guys would like us to do some more research on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and when someone pays or collects the sales tax and then sends it to the borough, they do sign off and saying that it's correct.
Yeah, my question was under oath. You know, so every time they have to take that or tell the telephone, somebody from the telephone company would have to go get it notarized and signed. That's the way I interpreted it.
I've never seen one notarized. There's a certification on there that they,
But is that
by
under,
their signature, they're affirming that
Yeah.
the information is true and correct.
no disagreement with that, but is that under oath? That's, to me, it's not under oath then. And that's what this reads in our ordinance.
I think that's what Bob's looking for, is just a clarification of the term under oath.
That's correct.
Does that just mean signing off with the statement at the bottom of a form, or does that mean you swear or have it notarized?
We
Go ahead.
can actually amend it and bring it back in third reading.
That's what
so
I'm
we can
thinking.
just Sign
Okay.
and certify.
I'd be happy with
That'd be
that.
okay?
Excellent.
So we have moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion on this item? Will the clerk call the roll?
If you don't mind, I'm gonna have it that you've passed it with the understanding that that change is going to
Okay.
be made. the motion.
Okay.
Okay. Nancy,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Cindy,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
and Jay.
Yes.
Motion carries. The next item on the agenda is ordinance 2014-07, an ordinance adjusting the FY 2014 budget for known changes. The ordinance has been amended since its introduction to include an increase in revenues of $180,281 from the National Forest Receipt Program, a transfer of $20,000 from the wastewater fund to the pump station number 5 project to finish out the project, and an increase of $26,042 to the motor pool fund for down payment on the new grader. Do we have a motion? And does that capture all the changes?
No.
That we needed to also add
The full price of the.
the full
grader.
price of the grader. And also the trailer?
The trailer's gonna be in FY
Next year.
15.
Okay,
So another
so an increase of
236,000.
236,000?
No,
That's what you told me the budget
it's
for.
these two together.
Oh, yes, so.
262,000 is the cost of the motor grader purchase.
262,000
Even, yes.
even? Let me reread that. Last part. So an increase of $262,000 to the motor pool fund for purchase of a new grader.
Right.
Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve this motion with the amendments of purchasing the purchase price for the new grader. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, will the clerk call the roll?
Nancy,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Cindy,
Yes.
Jay,
Yes.
and John.
Yes.
The motion carries. Moving on to item C, 14-133, authorization to issue a request for proposals to aid the community in developing a borough comprehensive plan. The complete proposal packet may be obtained from the borough's Community Development Department. Proposals will be accepted until 3 p.m. July 9th and will be evaluated by an ad hoc committee who will review the proposals and make recommendation to the Assembly on contract award. Do we have a motion to approve the request for proposal?
So move.
Second.
It's been moved by Member Strand, seconded by Member Stanton Gregor, that we accept this, that we approve this proposal. Is there any discussion?
I have a question. What is the cost of this approximately? Do we know?
I think that the borough manager in his review 2 meetings ago said we did not know how much it was going to cost. Kathy may recall something different, but I don't think we had a firm dollar amount.
Is there an idea of, a parameter of what we're looking at for spending on this project? Like 10,000, 50,000?
Yeah, Liz Cabrera has been doing a lot of work for us on this. Liz, do you have any ideas? Because yeah.
Hi, Liz Cabrera with the Economic Development Council. Assembly members, it's probably upwards of 300,000, I would think, because there's 2 main components, the Harbor Master Plan and rate study. Looking at the cost of that in other communities, it was around 150,000 alone. And then a comprehensive plan. Last time the borough or the city looked at doing a comprehensive plan, it was upwards of 90,000 alone. So if you combine the 2, you get a ballpark
About
figure.
300.
Yeah, I would think. And then the funding for it is coming from the state as part of the borough transition funds that the borough received.
Will that 300,000 be covered fully by the transition funds?
I believe we got in excess of that.
That's the plan. We will receive by July a total of $600,000
Yeah.
for becoming a borough. So, and that's where we're budgeting this expense to come from.
Thank you.
I've got a question on Part C, where they talks about municipal land selections. There's a section in there that we say assist the land selection committee and public to prioritize municipal land entitlement selections. And I have a problem with that, is that if we have, the assembly's already put out and we have a committee that's looking at this and prioritizing it to bring back to the assembly. And Cindy reads a little bit different than I do, but I read it such that we have some people doing the same job. And I think that the committee that was selected or that is agreed to could do a better job than a contractor can do it. And so I would propose that we take that out, or at least modify it in some way. Otherwise, I have a no vote on this.
Go ahead, Liz.
Yep. Assembly members, we do have a land selection committee and actually serve on that committee. During our discussions, one of the things that we've been really interested in receiving is public comment on what their priority areas would be for selection. The comprehensive plan process would serve as a way for that committee to receive public input on what lands are most important for the selection process. So I think from the discussions at the land selection committee, they would like to receive that public input, and this comprehensive plan provides a method to do that.
And as Bob and I were having a discussion about it, the way that I interpret this is that the RFP could evaluate lands for their economic potential. The land selection committee is the one that will take that information and bring a proposal to the assembly, and that we would then approve or disapprove. And I've lost track of where we are.
Comments, but
Yeah.
I'm through.
So we ready for a vote, or are there more comments?
But just looking at this just thinking about other things that have been done with the public sector and going out for proposals, and you end up having someone from Georgia or Florida write a proposal about what's going to happen in Petersburg or what the rate should be, and spend all the money and bring them in. And it just seems to me that with all the local talent we have, that I would much rather see this be kept as a local project. Even if it costs us $300,000 to pay people locally to serve on committees or to whatever, I'd rather see our local talent use their local knowledge to develop this plan rather than putting out for an RFP and get someone from out of state. And the other thing is, there's been so many boroughs developed, in the state now, that it seems a lot of it could just be cut and pasted.
Go ahead.
I could address that if I may.
Sure.
One reason that you bring an outside consultant in, and hopefully it won't be someone from Georgia, but if they do provide the best proposal, then we would probably go with that, is you want an independent set of eyes on the issues. I think if you had it in-house, we all know each other really, really well, and we all have our pet projects, and I think that can undermine a project like this, where every voice should be considered equally and every idea should be considered like it's a new idea and evaluated accordingly. So I think there's some value in having, someone who is not in our community. In addition, the main component of it is a harbor master plan, which will require people with an engineering background, which we don't really have that locally. So we would have to bring someone in for that part of it. And then thirdly, the talent that we have in town and the ideas that we have in town, they really are going to define what the plan is all about. The consultant's job is really to organize us and try and get that information out of the public. But they shouldn't be telling us what we should be doing. We should be deciding for ourselves what the future of our community is. So the public and everybody in town and in the borough has a really important role to play, and we should allow them to play that role and not use them up trying to facilitate discussions and write reports. That's what we hire the consultant to do. So At least that's my perspective on it.
No, and I agree with you on some of that, but I still think we do a disservice to our community by having someone from Georgia, facilitate a report. And like yourself has had so much training on facilitating projects and economic development, and I know there's other people in town that have that also. And it just drives me nuts when we bring someone from out of state as a facilitator when that's not a big deal. And I understand that you don't want people compromised or doing their pet projects, but when you have so many people on a committee, that usually everybody has their voice. So I think that evens out. I just don't like the idea of saying that we have no one in town that can facilitate something, so we have to pay someone from Georgia $300,000. I'm just throwing Georgia out for
Sure.
the hell.
Yeah,
But
that's okay.
to facilitate something that we've sent cities, borough staff, and other people to one training after another just to do stuff like this. So why aren't we using that talent?
Because they don't give us a proposal when we request one. This is to request, this is a request for a proposal, right?
Mhm.
So anybody, either whether they live in Georgia or Scow Bay, can present a proposal.
Sure.
Yeah.
And
the
it's
best one will
open to
be chosen.
individuals and
Yeah.
firms, so.
But that's why I say if we mandated that it be local.
It might not be the best one.
Yeah, I think the other idea is to have somebody who's familiar with land management planning and understands sort of the overarching objective, and as Liz says, can facilitate the discussion and make sure that we don't miss any pieces as well. But there will be representation from different segments of the community who are appointed to the group that reviews, and then in addition, public comment will be solicited a number of times. So that piece shouldn't be missed. Is there any further discussion? Can the clerk call the roll?
Nancy,
Yes.
Bob,
No.
John Everett,
No.
Jay,
Yes.
Cindy,
Yes.
Fails.
All right, the motion fails, so at this point, there is not a need to appoint people to the committee, and we will defer that. The next item on the agenda is an authorization to amend the professional services agreement with PND Engineers for the fish cleaning float project to provide engineering services during construction in an amount not to exceed $17,976.
So move.
Second.
It's moved by Member Haverlick, seconded by Member Strand, that we adopt this resolution. Is there any discussion?
Madam Mayor, I'm
Ma'am?
sorry, where are we at on the agenda?
Item D, 14-136, authorization to amend professional services agreement. Did I skip something?
Thank you very much. I was looking at ordinances for some reason.
No, that's all right.
Thanks.
Is there any discussion on this? Hearing none, will the clerk call the roll?
And do I have a motion on it?
Yes. Member Haverlick and Member Strand?
Thanks for keeping me straight here. Okay, Cindy,
Yes.
Jay,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Nancy,
Yes.
and Bob.
Yes.
Moving on to new business. The next item on the agenda is ordinance 2014-08, an ordinance providing for chapter 4.60 of the municipal code, parks and recreation user fees, and updating current language to reflect borough incorporation. This is the first reading of this ordinance. Do I have a motion?
So move.
So moved. Second.
It's been moved by Member Haverlick, seconded by Member Stanton Gregor, that we adopt this ordinance. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, will the clerk call the roll?
Cindy,
Yes.
Jay,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Nancy,
Yes.
and John.
Yes.
And that passes. The next item up on the agenda is ordinance 2014-09, an ordinance providing for chapter 13.12, camping and recreation areas of the municipal code and updating current language to reflect Borough incorporation. I'll entertain a motion.
So move.
Second.
It's been moved by Member Haverlick and seconded by Member Lynn that we adopt ordinance 2014-09. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, will the clerk call the roll?
Bob,
Yes.
Cindy,
Yes.
Jay,
Yes.
Nancy,
Yes.
and John.
Yes.
The next item on the agenda is ordinance 2014-10, an ordinance adopting the budget and setting the millage rates for the fiscal year July 1st, 2014 through June 30th, 2015. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second. It's been moved by Member Lynn, seconded by Member Strand, that we adopt ordinance 2014-10. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, will the clerk call the roll?
Yeah,
Except
it's gotta be
we
changed
will have
first.
one slight amendment now that you changed the motor pool for
Oh.
next year and took the grader out. So the expenditures budget for motor pool fund will decrease from $1.2 million to $1,059,653.
$1,059,000.
653.
Way to be on it, Jody.
Really? So how do we handle that, Kathy? Do we need an amendment after the motion, or just
Actually,
adopt it
I'll
as
just
amended?
include in the motion that it was as amended.
As amended?
Thank you.
And Bob and Jay, are you still comfortable with that? I think you were the two that made.
Yes.
Okay. So with that change, we're voting on. Can the clerk call the roll?
Cindy,
Yes.
Nancy.
Yes.
John,
No.
Lee, Jay,
Yes.
and Bob.
Yes.
And the motion, or the ordinance passes. The next item on the agenda is 14-137, authorization to execute the reimbursable services agreement with ADOT for improvements to Petersburg's sanitary sewer facilities to be performed with the Petersburg Nordic Drive refurbishment project, and that's the Pump Station 1 force main upgrade. Public Works staff will be in attendance to answer any questions. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second. It's been moved by Member Haverlick, seconded by Member Strand, that we adopt 14-137. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, will the clerk call the roll?
John,
Yes.
Nancy.
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Jay,
Yes.
and Cindy.
Yes. Moving on to communications. Have any communications been received? And I just had one, and that was from Donna Loudon, who asked that we recognize Armed Services Day, which is May 17th, when we, in the middle of Little Norway Festival and September Mai. Moving on to assembly discussion items, are there any recognitions? Yes, Tom?
Yes, I just got back into town and went down the Singley Alley Bridge, and the public work guys doing some of the work there. I was just very impressed in the month that I've gone, 3 weeks, at how far it's gone, what an excellent job they've done there. It's almost a work of art. So I really appreciate Carl's crew and and Don and those guys and Martin that have worked on it so diligently.
Any others? Yeah, Donnie.
The past weekend, the community had a health and wellness fair. And I just, number one, wanted to recognize Heidi Cabral, one of my employees who spent many months organizing and setting that up, but also the hospital and many other volunteers that made that possible. We do this every other year, and it's a huge success, and it's wonderful to see the community in the community gym using that, but also looking for healthy ways to be able to make our community better. So I just wanted to say thank you to all those that helped make that possible.
I attended that, and it was very well organized and very well attended, so it was a good day. Any other recognitions?
I do. So I wanted to thank the community and the volunteers of the fire department for helping put on the Southeast Region EMS Symposium. It was a great success. We had 117 participants. Presenters came from Washington and Anchorage, and everybody had great things to say about the community and how welcomed they felt when they got here. The weather was really nice, good education. The volunteers hosted a dinner for the people who were still here Sunday night, and that went very well. The school allowing us to use the auditorium and the school and providing us Caleb Callum. He was a great technical guy who helped us out. Chamber of Commerce who put the packets together. Just the whole community, business-wise and everything. Everybody was very appreciative, and so it was a great success. Couldn't have done it without the community, so thank you very much.
Any others?
I just have a question. I don't know if this is the appropriate time to mention it, but the items that Becky and David brought up earlier about the timber sale and that, I would like to put that on as a discussion item for next meeting.
I think the clerk can add that to the agenda. All right. I would like to take a 5-minute break, and when we come back, we'll resume and go into executive session.
Can we have a motion prior to your break, that way?
Sure.
Yeah.
I would move that we go into executive session after the break.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Voice vote? All those in favor?
Aye.
Can you explain, just read the reason why you're going to executive session, please?
Yes. To discuss with Attorney Jim Brennan the negotiating points to be considered in acquiring a transfer agreement with Southeast Alaska Power Agency for the operation and maintenance of Tyee Lake Hydro.
And a roll call vote, please.
Okay.
John?
Yes.
Jay?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
And Nancy? Yes. And Cindy?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
You need a roll call to go into the executive. Yeah, I just realized that after you said it. I know. I'm still figuring it out.
Thank you for putting me on track. I looked down at that work you had. I just completely lost
No,
it.
you know what? There are times when I am kind of like, where are we? So thank goodness you caught me when I actually began to. And I wanted to. I should have mentioned the APOC stuff too.
Hey, what's that?
The Lizzie Thompson's letter about the APOC filing. I would like to at least acknowledge that publicly.
Well, there's
So I'm saying
When you come back out.
Yeah. We should do a form. So we have this many subscribers, this many subscribers, so here's their bill, this many are missing, so here's your.
Yeah, it was a good random whatever.